and allows you to be able to travel freely pretty easily because you're located close to a lot of other countries. One great thing about international teaching is the schools. And when I say schools, I'm talking about the students as well as the teachers and as well as the conditions of working in international school. That's number one. Number two is living in another country. So getting to experience what it's like to live in another country rather than just travel through as a tourist, but actually living in a country. And the third one is the holidays. What other job gives you around 12 weeks holiday every year and allows you to be able to travel freely pretty easily because you're located close to a lot of other countries. So they're my top three great things about international teaching. Now for three not so great things about international teaching. So the first one would be being away from family and friends. That's definitely number one. The second one would be kind of losing touch with your country of origin, not really knowing where home is anymore, and yeah, sort of not quite sure of your identity, I suppose. And number three is the uncertainty about where you might live next. And when you get into my age, I'm 55 now, where will you settle down? Where will you retire? That's really hard to decide. I'm not sure if it will be home in Australia for me, for example. Explore each of these in a little bit more detail. The first advantage is the international schools. We get looked after really well. I'm definitely saving more money working overseas than I would be if I was back in Australia. So financially, most people would say that they are better off. There are certainly people that get paid a lot more than I do, but I feel like I'm doing pretty well financially. I teach motivated students from all around the world. They're interesting, they're well behaved, they're respectful. They are, in some ways, perfect students. So far, the ones that I've taught at least. Not all of them, I suppose, to be fair, but the vast majority. The second thing, of course, I mentioned the travel and the fact that you can travel really, really easily. That you're living overseas. Actually, the second one was living overseas, wasn't it? So living overseas, you get that real experience of what it's like to live in a culture. You don't pick it up, all of it, to be fair. Unfortunately, we find ourselves sometimes in international expat bubbles. So you've got to try to get out of that bubble, break out of the bubble to explore more, to maybe learn a language, learn more of the culture. The best way to do that is to make local friends, and that's hard sometimes. When I was in the Philippines, I found it pretty easy to make local friends, but in other places such as China, maybe Singapore as well, it was a little bit more difficult to make local friends. The third big advantage was the travel that I sort of skipped ahead to a minute ago. And oh, by the way, I'm filming this from Koh Samet. So I live in Thailand, and Koh Samet is, at the moment at least, after 3 years working here, it's my favourite Thai island. It's a very chilled island, depending upon where you are, of course, but it's just beautiful. It's only around about 3 hours away from Bangkok as well, so it's easy to get to. That's by road. So yeah, number three, the travel opportunities. I've travelled way more than I ever thought I would. I didn't even have a passport until I think I was about 28 years old when I got my first passport. And I've now lived in 6 countries and travelled to many more. So I love travel, and if travel is your thing and you would like to live overseas, then international teaching is one way to do it. Now the three negatives are pretty significant. So being away from family and friends is tough. My first year overseas, I was in the Philippines when my grandmother died and I wasn't able to get back for the funeral. So that's pretty tough. Both my parents are now elderly. My dad's had some health issues. My mother has dementia. These are things that make you rethink what you're doing and make you think, well, maybe it's time to go back. So that's sort of one of the things that I'm working on right now. There's this guilt that other family members are pulling the load, and even if you send money to help, it's not the same. You feel like you're paying your way to some kind of, I guess, I don't know how to explain that, but it's kind of paying your way to a healthier conscience, perhaps. So being away from family and friends, yeah, that's tough. Not quite knowing your identity. Sort of having a global identity is great. I'm Australian. I feel very connected to Australia still, but probably not as much as I was previously. I'm more an international citizen now. I see things really, really differently. It means that I don't see things the same as I would have if I stayed, and I certainly don't see things the same as some of my friends and many other Australians, so I have a different outlook, and that can cause some clashes sometimes. But just this disconnect with your own country. We went back to Australia and lived there for a year and a half when our girls went to Australia to study, and we felt a little bit out of place, and that's something that's quite common. The other thing is I have no idea where the hell I'm going to retire. I have superannuation in Australia, which will be my retirement fund, but if I needed to, I wouldn't get a full pension because I haven't lived in Australia for long enough. I'd have to go back for a certain number of years, I think, before I would be able to be eligible. That has a bit of an impact. So I therefore start thinking about, would I retire in places like Thailand where it's cheaper? So my money would go further. Maybe that would be great. Maybe I could spend half a year overseas and half a year in Australia. Things like that just make things more complicated when you are not sure where your future will be in terms of where you're going to retire, but I don't even know where I'll be living in 2 years' time. 4 years is kind of the sweet spot for me, and this is my third year now, so I'm considering taking a year off and doing some other things for a year and then moving to a different country altogether. So that uncertainty is a little bit challenging in some ways. So there are three of the negatives in just a little bit more detail.